I know you and I often have emails back and forth where we get these marketing messages or sales messages that we're confused by. And usually they use words like end to end solution and cutting edge. And I guess I want to start with why it seems to be so difficult for people to explain things in clear ways. What do you think the cause of it is?
Well, I would guess that in many cases it starts at the product level. Like if you have to describe a product that you don't understand, because the product itself is convoluted, complicated, unclear, then you reach for substitute terms. Well, I don't know what this is. It does everything, so it's I don't know, it's end to end. It's there's always these acronyms. It's just acronyms or very broad statements because people can't be specific because the product isn't clear. And either that's one reason. Another reason could be that salespeople aren't trained on what the thing actually is. They're just, brought in, and thrown at a desk and given a bunch of leads and they have to figure it out themselves. And that's not fair to them, but that's where they're stuck, Also, just in general, at the company level, a lot of companies are convoluted and complicated, and that just filters down or drips down over everything else. It coats everything else. So I think there's a wide variety of reasons, but fundamentally, if something is simple, it's actually pretty simple to explain. It's only when things are really complicated that people get really confused and have to make up other terms. And I, like you said, I forward you these emails all the time. And I forward you an email and I say, bullshit is what I say. And the email is just I don't know what they mean. I literally do not know what they're selling. Literally do not understand what they're selling. I don't know why they're contacting us. And there's all sorts of assumptions baked into these emails that just baffle me every time I see them. And I always wonder who's paying people, how, if you knew that you were being represented like this, would you make a change, or do you think this is actually good, is what always comes to mind.
What sort of traps or things that they say cause things to be confusing?
I think one thing is people swing for the fences, and then you just call bullshit immediately. Because everybody you talk to cannot be working on the most revolutionary new version of whatever, right? And so people will often say we're disrupting or revolutionizing. It's no, you're not. Forget that for a second, because that's not something you do. That's something that ends up happening. You don't do that. You don't do a revolution. You don't do disruption. The market puts that label on you after you've really changed something. You cannot be that before you've done anything, right? So a revolutionary is not someone who talks about revolution. It's someone who actually creates the revolution, and that only happens over time. So whenever I hear that, I zone out literally, because I feel like nothing else you're saying registers with me, because I've just grown numb to what you're about to say. So there's that trap, which is everyone's revolutionizing, and I think part of that is people feel like they need to swing big and go big or something, and it's impressive, but it's most of the times it's just delusion.
Yeah, we're the Uber of something.
That's another one. Whenever I hear that, I don't, I zone out too. It's well, who are you? When you introduce yourself, do you say I am the Bill of, Bill's your friend, I'm the Bill of whoever? No, you say I'm Josh and this is what I do. You don't use other people as reference, and you don't use other companies as reference. This is what do you do? So the other issue with saying we are the X of Y is that people's perception of X may be quite bad, actually. And whenever people talk about we're the Uber of, I'm well, Uber is not really a good business. Number one, they're losing billions and billions of dollars. They've never turned a profit, and they're losing billions of dollars. They've had all sorts of internal scandal. They break the law. They openly break the law and flaunt their law breaking. Is this who you are? You're the that of this? Or so you got to be careful when you use other companies as reference points.